Welcome to another tips and tricks session to show you how you can become very efficient when you're analyzing and connecting your logs, metrics, and traces. Now, normally we have our notebooks and dashboards where you can explore data using DQL. Today we're here and looking at the Security Investigator, and I brought Tiit with me, who is the product manager behind this application in Dynatrace. I want to understand, Tiit, from you, when to choose a notebook or a dashboard or the Security Investigator, and then obviously diving into the Security Investigator to show us some tips and tricks how people can really become efficient and fully leverage this great app in Dynatrace.
Yes, hello, and thanks for having me here. Yeah, this is a question that we get asked a lot, how to distinguish the use cases and when to use what. But to try to bring it in together in one sentence or two sentences, you would use dashboards to see what is going on in your environment. So you have prepared your queries in DQL, fetching data from Grail automatically, and just seeing your charts or the results in dashboards without any immediate interactive activities there. So this is like the dashboard you show on the screen to get your understanding about the environment. Now, you might use notebooks if you, well, I call it if you know what you're looking for. So looking for the known. You already know that you want to fetch some logs. You want to maybe join them with traces and filter them out by your lookup data or whatever. And you know your queries and you know what you're expecting to find. So maybe your business events or the queries that you have prepared. So you go to your notebooks and re-execute the queries that you have and see the results with not so much effort, so to say, looking for the known. And now where the interesting part comes in is when you are actually solving an incident or when you're looking for the unknown. So you are not sure what you're looking for. You're not sure what is the DQL query that you would like to use. And now you start developing it as you get responses from Grail. So imagining again the screen that I'm showing right now, you have your initial data about your environment, and you would like to maybe continue to search your logs from your application. So you execute your query, you fetch some results. Here you see some data. You want to maybe filter out based on this specific data. So you will create additional filter and you will execute it again. You will get your another result. So you're digging into data, and based on the responses that you will get, you constantly develop the queries. And the distinguishment maybe between the notebooks and the Investigator app here is that we are keeping your queries in the context of the case. So as you see the query tree here evolving, you can always navigate back to your previous query. We show you the history and the results that you got when you executed the query in the tree here. So you can always navigate back and see your response without re-executing the query or remembering what was done. So for example, if you reach to the point where you maybe want to go back 2 steps to your initial query to fetch some other data, you don't have to remember what the query was. You just navigate back, create additional filter here. We will enable you to execute it again, and we will keep the original query in the tree, but create a new branch for the query. So basically what you will have an investigation tree that enables you to at any time go back in time of your investigation and basically, manage your investigations here. This is like the managing part. And what I will tell you today are the investigative features that will speed up these kind of query creations when you're doing your investigations. So imagine a notebook is like the general tool where you can have your business events and you can have your Davis assistants and so on and so forth in your sections that you have there. But here we enable you these specific investigative features that will speed up specifically investigations, whether they're security related or availability incidents or whatever. So this is where our strengths come in, the dedicated features, so to say.
Perfect. No, I think that's a great explanation. I really like how you started. You said, if you know what you're looking for and still want to massage a little bit the output, then obviously notebooks are great, and then putting them into dashboard if you need to see them over time. But if you don't know what you need to know, right? If you're exploring, if you're investigating, finding the unknowns is where the Security Investigator comes in. Cool. Tiit, great explanation. Now let's dive into some of the use cases. You already showed a little bit some of the cool things, like you can actually mark certain parts of the content, add a filter. I really love that you keep the history, that you have branches, you can go back, you can color things, you can actually then make it easier for you to also navigate the investigation steps you have already done, but I'm sure there's so much more. So show us.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite things to show before actually diving into the features would be the ability to actually see the data in its raw format. So imagine fetching this data, turning on the multi-lines and seeing already the multi-line stack trace as a field content, or if you would like to see all the non-printables as well, which might be present in your Tomcat logs, for example, then viewing field details here will enable you to actually see the raw data as you would see it in the log file. So that would actually give you the opportunity to understand, where are the spaces, where are the tabs, which usually tables don't provide you. So if you would like, for example, want to now filter out, you can create a selection filter out of this stack trace and then just execute the query again to fetch the specific data here, and you see a new node being created here. But to introduce the features, today I would really love to talk about 3 cool features that we now have added to the Security Investigator. The timestamp reference or reference time. The second thing would be pivoting DQL queries based on the dimensions that you have attached to the log events or the log records that you are fetching from Grail. And thirdly, performance metrics. And I will try to describe those things in a flow or in a logical order, so to say, to tell a story so it would make sense. So if that makes sense to you as well, just
Perfect. No, it's perfect. And folks, if you're watching this video, we also try to put timestamp in the video so you can easily jump between these 3 sections now. Yeah.
yeah, perfect. So imagine looking for errors in your logs. So this is a typical thing, what you might do either in the logs app or in notebooks, or of course in the investigator as well. So searching for errors that might have occurred in the last, let's say, day or 2 or wherever. So we got a lot of them. Maybe we are looking for something more specific. So I'll just add a filter for demoing purpose as well. Say that this was this error isn't present. Let's look just for general errors then. And when we see, for example, any kind of error that might create an interest for us, let's say that this one here is something that we would really love to take a look at. What we can now do, right-clicking on the timestamp field here, enables us to set this timestamp of this specific log record as the reference time. So what will happen now is we will now create a new virtual field for the table in every of the nodes that we have here. That will show the relative distance between the 2 times, so the reference time and the actual record time. So maybe going back to this node here, we can see that this error here occurred 2 hours and 41 minutes before the reference time that we have just set in this branch here, giving us the possibility to understand the distance or the context of the thing. And why it's relevant, it might be relevant, for example, when you now jump into traces. So imagine you want to, let's say that we took this event here, we marked this one as the reference time. And now on the 0 time, we can actually, let's say, open this, not maybe a trace. Let's say that we open this Kubernetes pod logs by pivoting. I will come to pivoting later as well, but just to show you the reference here. We can now understand that what were the events that actually occurred before the error that we marked as a reference, and what happened after that. What else can we do with this reference time? We have a reference menu here if you have set it. And here you can actually create additional filters. You can say that, please show me all those logs that happened before the reference time or after it, or maybe just around it. So adding this 5-second filter here will simply add a filter, execute the query again, and you will simply see all the logs around the reference time from the specific port, for example, the cloud application instance that we defined in the filter when pivoting around it. So this gives us the understanding about what occurred around that time, or how the logs that we are watching might be connected to the incident that we investigated or are investigating around the reference time that we have set, giving you like additional context and an understanding and navigation abilities here.
Yeah, and I think for me, what's really interesting here is I know you're currently filtering on a specific app, but if you're looking at all the logs in a complex system, in a distributed system, your infrastructure all the way up to your app, then you're really interested in, hey, show me all the logs that happen in this particular area of the environment around this time frame, and then having this timestamp different to the reference time frame is extremely helpful, right? What happened just shortly before, what happened shortly after, across all of your different components in your system, yeah.
Absolutely. And then just thinking about the error message with multi-lines that I showed before, when we, for example, what the setup here is, what I showed before as well. So we have an application server in Java, and we have, which is in the Kubernetes environment. And we have the Istio sidecar that deals with all the proxying and the web requests. And we might not have tracing, so we might not know actually how these things are interconnected, or maybe the previous requests are the requests that actually caused the error. So imagine setting your reference time here and now revisiting the Istio logs here. So you can actually see sorting by timestamp, and okay, we have too many of them. Let's put 5 seconds around them. Which means that now you see the Istio logs that actually happened before and after the error that we had, and you see the relative distance here as well in the Istio. So connecting, let's say, network logs which are not connected to your application logs, or maybe you have your client application somewhere else and those logs are ingested to Dynatrace. So having these abilities to navigate and create context through time is something really crucial, at least for security incidents and for availability incidents as well, for SREs, for example. So yeah, I would say that the really beneficial thing that would speed up the investigations.
Yeah. So to sum up, if you find a specific log, you can set this particular timestamp as your reference timestamp, and as you then navigate through your different investigation steps, you can always, first of all, you see the difference to that reference timestamp, and you can adjust the filter very easily by saying, from the reference timestamp, give me the 5 seconds before, the 5 seconds after, and then adjust the query accordingly. And every time when you make any adjustments, folks, I'm sure you've seen it, then the query tree on the right also updates, because these are all new queries, which means you can always go back as well, right? It's always, that's cool.
Definitely. You can always navigate back. And just as an addition to show a really cool feature, imagine that you have several of those timestamp fields. We don't only allow you to add this one reference time. So just simply adding a new timestamp, right now creating a pseudo time stamp, but still additional time equals time stamp plus 1 hour, for example, plus 30 minutes, just to play around with it. Now what will happen is we will have another field called additional time. What you can do in the reference time menu, you can decide that I want to see a reference timestamp for the other timestamp field as well. So you know what you have two virtual fields. The second one is here. So you can have like multiple reference time fields towards multiple timestamps that you might have here. So why this is important again, if you look at Istio logs, for example, there are two types of fields. There is one is the start time, which actually represents the time when the request was initiated. And then you have the timestamp when the request and the response were logged. And these timestamps might be different, which means that you can actually add the reference time to both of them, seeing the relative distance to your incident time, which means that you are not bound to only one reference timestamp difference. You can have them as many as you want, which is giving you the ability to navigate through, which is really awesome. Second really cool thing, what I would like to show, based on the same story, but now modifying a query a bit, is going back to the errors that I looked before. So imagine that you are still looking for the wasn't able to connect to Redis error that is really interesting to you. So let's investigate this one. Let's set the reference time here. Oops. And now you would like to see, but what actually caused this error? Because right now what I'm seeing only the error messages. I have searched for errors. And now right-clicking here, you have actually the ability to pivot. You can pivot based on that you have in your log records. So what will happen in logs to Dynatrace, as you know, we will add entity information to it. We will add your cloud application names, we add your pod names, we have namespaces here and so on. The logs are being enriched with the context of Dynatrace, the information from Smartscape and so on. So we would know who actually created this log event. And what we enable you to do with log pivoting, we enable you to jump to the dimension that is defined in your log record. So right-clicking here and choosing pivot query by enables you to pivot the queries based on any dimension that is present and what you have customized for yourself. So imagine we would now like to understand what actually happened in this let's start with trace. Let's see what happened with this trace. So pivoting by trace ID will now create a new query that will show that, aha, this is now the trace which shows you what brought you to this kind of error message that we have here. What you can see is the perfect reference time again. This activity actually initiated it 310 milliseconds before the error occurred, and you can see past it. So this is like the trace full. And now maybe you want to see, okay, trace is fine, but what happened actually in the specific pod at that time? So again, pivoting here based on Kubernetes pod name, for example, will create again a new node which will show you all the logs from that pod around the time. Okay, there are quite many of them, so let's just add this 5-second difference here again, execute the query again. And now we will see that, aha, around that error, we actually had these events happening in the pod. So maybe some other event that occurred before the error caused this error, giving you again the pod context or the pod point of view to investigate what happened here, and enabling you to quickly navigate between your infrastructure, within your infrastructure, between different entities, whether it's on the node level, pod level, namespace level, wherever you can choose your dimensions on your own. So yeah, going to the pivoting customization page or the settings, we enable you to add any kind of dimensions here, which will enable or will be shown in the context menu if they are present in the response, not to overwhelm you. So here you can see all the available dimensions, yeah.
So
Which will,
so basically the pivoting is a great and easy way to filter on particular metadata on your logs, and then seeing that same data again based on the new filter. And this could be, as you showed, show me everything from that workload, show me everything from that node, Kubernetes node, from that cluster. I mean, any type of metadata that you said that is present in the logs. And I know you mentioned logs are enriched by one agent, but I assume this also works just the same way if the logs come in, let's say, through OpenTelemetry. It's the same
yeah,
thing.
definitely, yeah. So one agent was just an example, yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. That's great. Wow. Yeah.
And then one thing that we enable here to do to leverage the query tree that we have, and again speed up the investigation in that sense that you can actually create more than one query. So imagine, as you saw, we had several of those, wasn't able to connect to Redis things, error messages here. So by, let's say, selecting 5 of those errors to actually look into all of them at once, what we enable you to do is selecting 5, now right-clicking on them, choosing pivot query by trace ID. And if you now look what happens to the query tree after I click it, 5 new nodes are being created. And each of those nodes will contain the similar query, but each of them will have their own unique trace ID, giving you the ability to actually branch out based on different trace IDs and continue your investigation with a trace ID that is most relevant. So maybe you can just neglect the ones that have conversations successful here. You can just go here because here we have fewer conversation successful things, and you might want to maybe, I don't know, pivot from here and show me distributed traces, for example, for this specific event that you have here. Or maybe you want to pivot by process group now from here because this is relevant for your investigation. But you don't have to manually anymore type the trace IDs in. You don't have to manually create the queries one by one. You can leverage the query tree and pivoting by multiple different values at once, which is like the awesome thing that we provide. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And I really love it that I've never seen this before. So the multi-select, then the automatically creation of the different investigation paths. Obviously, you can always go back. This is what I really love about this. You can always go back and you can kind of figure out how did you end up here. Nothing is lost. Yeah, nice. So we saw the timestamping feature. We saw the pivoting feature. We saw the I call it the parallel investigation feature, right? So that's also great.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another one, right? The third one around performance metrics.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of my favorite things here as well, which we have lately created, which brings together the metric data or the telemetry data, observability data that we have, and logs investigations. So what we used to have in the security investigator as well, and what we have in notebooks is you can always fetch time series data and show it as a chart. But what we lacked in our own investigations when we investigated some production the performance issues, we lacked the understanding about how log records or errors in our logs were actually impacting the CPU usage, for example, or how the memory consumption rose when a certain query was executed. So this was an issue for us, and manually mapping those things together was cumbersome. So what we created into this Investigator app was the possibility to actually view the performance metrics from your investigation. So the same error message that we had, that we before investigated, when you just right click on the log record that is interesting to you, that was the error, for example, and choose view performance metrics, what we now enable you to do is we will show all the entities from that log record that contain any kind of CPU or memory related metrics. So for here, for example, we have the cloud application entity, which shows you the Kubernetes container CPU usage. So now clicking on it, what will happen is we will create a metric data here, which will show you the Kubernetes container CPU usage at the time of this event here. So clicking through the following events will change the red line. Okay, now these events are too close to each other, but still, they are. What will happen is that the red line will start moving, showing you how this specific log record here influenced the CPU usage. You can, I will just expand it a bit. You can choose whether to see the average CPU usage or minimum or maximum. My favorite is maximum usually. And you can choose what kind of dimension you would like to have for the CPU usage. For example, maybe you want to see the Kubernetes cluster CPU usage. You can see that chart. Maybe you want to see the application instance. You can see that chart. And when navigating back to the let's say the previous results, we can actually click through the errors and see how each of the errors impacted the usage of this specific application instance, giving you the understanding that, okay, but maybe this query here was the one that actually created the alert or created the Davis problem for us because we went over the threshold that we had defined for our CPU. And so this gives us the ability to understand or break the silos between your logs and your metric data that you have in Grail. Yeah. And again, speeding up the investigations and giving you faster insights into what happened.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's showing you the relevant data in context. And as you said, right, sometimes there's a cross impact between the log indicates a problem that then caused the CPU spike or the memory spike, or on the other way, it could also mean that because something is happening on that particular container, there is a CPU spike. Now, all of a sudden, we see certain logs that we wouldn't expect otherwise, but then we can see this data in context. You don't have to jump around between different views. Everything is here in context. That's awesome. Yeah. That means every log that comes in, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, gets enriched with contextual information about where the log originated from, so from which infrastructure, from which application, and based on all of this information, you then provide the potential metrics. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And continuing here, if what you can do with metrics or performance metrics data already, you can always use the three dot menu here to copy the DQL that actually created this time series chart here to maybe enhance it, maybe just modify or share it to somebody, showing that, hey, we have this spike here in this chart. Or you can always go back to the original node, for example, where you actually created this chart to understand what is the context of it, because the chart will remain even if you change the nodes here. You can go to any node that you have, the chart will still be here. If you click on this log record, it will show you that, okay, this happened too far behind the chart that we have here. But always you can refocus to the original node. And if you want, you can always add a new node. So by clicking the add a node button, what will happen is that the new node is being created here, and it will contain the same chart. So you can modify your chart. You can maybe add 45 minutes before, 45 minutes after here. That will show you a longer chart for the same thing, and so on. So these kind of things, and see all the entities that created the chart as well, of course. So this kind of data is already here. And to spoil a bit, what will be the next steps for these things is to make it reversible as well. So selecting the area on the chart will maybe select the logs for this entity. So you can do it vice versa, still breaking the silos, but in the other way around as well. So these kind of things are the things that we are dealing with, and what we enable our investigators or engineers to do when investigating production errors and stuff. And then this is something that we want to dedicate or focus on to bring these kind of features live.
Yeah. Wow. Tiit, this is phenomenal, especially for somebody like me that has been analyzing production problems, looking at logs, metrics, and traces for so many years, seeing everything in context, seeing everything so nicely connected. Also very responsive with everything you showed here is super fast, right? There was no lag in anything. That's thanks to Grail. Also, everything that you showed, I believe, is on the playground tenant. That means everyone that is watching this video, you can obviously do this on your own Dynatrace tenant, but if you don't have one, or if you want to explore the same use cases that Tiit showed here, just go to the Dynatrace playground tenant. The link to the playground is in the video, or you can just access it easily from your own Dynatrace tenant. To recap, what I've learned is connecting the observability data for investigation is very important, especially if you're looking for unknowns. You showed us the timestamp feature. So when you analyze certain data points, you can always then see the reference timestamp to all the other data that you're analyzing. Then you showed us the pivoting feature, which is great. So you can focus on particular parts of your infrastructure. It's kind of like a filter that is set. The third thing is providing you performance metrics in context. And then the other things that you showed just on the fly, right? You can obviously drill into your traces. You have all of your historical investigation steps. You keep the queries. Do you also keep the result of the queries?
Yes, we also keep the results. And then this is the main reason for that is that if you have spent time on maybe a long run inquiry based on your last 2 months of data, then you don't want to re-execute the same data or spend time. Or if, for example, you had lower retention set for your logs. So, for example, you are only saving logs for last 10 days, but your investigation has run longer, then you still have the evidence. When revisiting the data or opening the case later, you still see the data that you fetched a year ago, maybe, and you still see how you investigated it. So we provide this kind of evidence storage separately. We don't re-execute the queries, but we show you what you actually fetched when you did the investigation.
Cool. Awesome. So folks, check out the Security Investigator. And as you can probably tell from this content, this is not just for security use cases, even though it's heavily used for that to analyze logs that coming in on your network, on your applications to figure out suspicious behavior, but you can really use this for everything. Tiit, thank you so much for doing this session. There's more innovation coming out of your part of the organization, so I'm pretty sure I will have you back for more tips and tricks.
Definitely. And thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.